Welcome back to the Garden with Joy and Holly radio show. Happy to have you with us. Want to check out those sponsors you've heard throughout the program? You can find them at our parent website, thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com, located at the Season 9 tab or the Money tab at the top of the page. Holly, let's go to the hotline and bring in our guest for this week.
Asia Spratley is a working mother of 2 with an urban homestead. They also have a pet dog, some chickens, and quail. She shows all of this and many great gardening tips on her YouTube channel, YellowDoorUrbanHomestead. Welcome to the program, Asia.
Hi, thank you.
Well, let's start with this. How did you get into gardening? Everybody has their unique story. Was this something that was developed early in your life, or you found the aha moment later?
I found an aha moment later. In 2020, when we could not go outside and you had to stay at home, I wanted to find something to do with my daughter so we could get, outside. And we had a garden bed, just one block garden bed that we had been kind of planting in, but not really taking it serious. And so when 2020 came, I was like, well, we'll just move it to the other side of the yard where there's a little more sun, and that'll give us something to do. And my first year of gardening was absolutely horrible, but it just caught on. Like, I was very excited to grow something, even though it wasn't like, it didn't go well. So I expanded the garden. I added 2 more block beds. And then just from there, I started to add additional beds, no dig, raised beds, and everything else, chickens, quail. So it was kind of an aha moment during 2020.
And that's the thing with a lot of gardeners. And if you've got hobbies, you're not going to be perfect the first time you remodel a car or your bathroom. You're going to learn as you go just in gardening. So it's good that, we make the mistakes so we know what not to do next time.
Absolutely. Yep. I've learned so many things from mistakes that I've made. And then I'm a big experimenter too. So I learned things that, you might not read in a book or you might not see on the internet just by experimenting.
So now that it's been, 5 years, how are your children about the garden? Are they still into it? Do they enjoy it? Do they, tell their friends about it? What's the situation there?
So they definitely tell friends about it. They talk about it. They don't help much anymore. However, when we go out of town or something, my son is very willing to take care of the chickens, the quail, water the garden for me. But a lot of what I do now is on my own, and it's because I enjoy it so much. My daughter may come outside to keep me company, or she'll volunteer to help on, days that she just doesn't have much to do. But for the most part, it's my garden and they help if I need them.
What was something that in that 2020 first year, you were like, I really want to grow this, and it failed, but now you have that one thing that you have adapted and figured out that you are successful with it now every time you grow it?
Tomatoes. I would say tomatoes. My first year, my tomatoes got blight so terrible, but I didn't, understand anything about pruning or anything like that. And I live in a very humid area. So I'm in Virginia. It's very humid here. And I didn't know about that. So the tomatoes got blight, the plants got blight. And so now I know, pruning is a good thing. Even if I decide not to prune, then I know why my tomatoes have blight. I also decided to start growing them in containers, which helps me out a lot as well. Well, grow bags, which helps me out as well. But tomatoes, I wanted them really bad my first year. And now I get, so many pounds of tomatoes because I know what I'm doing at this point, just off of, trial and error.
Fantastic. So your YouTube channel is Yellow Door Urban Homestead. If, when our listeners check it out, can you tell them what they can expect, what your channel is all about?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing I like to say is that my channel is a very real channel. I do not, I don't say that I'm an expert because I'm not. And so when things go wrong, you're going to see that they went wrong on my channel. When they go right, you're going to see that they grow right. And so basically I'm growing in my backyard in an urban setting. I have probably, I want to say 10 or 12 mixtures of beds. So I have raised beds, in-ground beds, no dig beds. I have a small orchard and 2 greenhouses. I'm raising quail over here. I also have chickens. And so you're kind of going to see a small homestead, but also you're going to see like being able to care for animals, even though I live in the city and and it's happening in my backyard. But we only have birds at this point. Looking to get bees, also looking to get rabbits because I do want to have meat sources, and at this point I have quail, and that those are my meat sources, and the chickens are for eggs. And so you're going to see a very realistic vlog type of channel, because I don't do just a lot of sit down teaching videos, because I just like it to feel natural, like you're in the backyard with me and we are working in the garden together.
And we've all watched YouTube channels where there appears to be never a failure, and it doesn't seem very genuine. Whenever you say, hey, I messed this up, here, I did this, don't do it this way, you really connect with the audience in a way that you can't in any other way.
Yeah, I definitely think being, completely genuine and showing everything that happens and not just the things that go well, it is definitely a way. I also think it's a way for people to not feel scared to garden, because if you're seeing someone on YouTube that's having failures too, you're like, okay, one of the things I say on my channel all the time is it's fine. It's kind of like a catchphrase over there, because it is fine. I can try again next year.
Absolutely. So how did you get into raising quail? And it sounds like those are meat quail. It must be different than raising chickens. Kind of tell us the difference there. And then any suggestions for people who might want to raise quail themselves?
Oh yeah, I can tell you that. So I got into quail for like I said, I wanted a meat source on my homestead, and originally I was looking at rabbits, and because I was not educated in rabbits, the one thing that I saw is when you call them, process them, they could make a noise. And I was like, there's no way I could do that. And so just kind of scouring YouTube, I saw quail. And so I started to do the research on it, because I live in in the city and I have a smaller backyard. They don't take up much space at all. And they don't need like a large area. They don't have to have a large home. And I said, I'm going to give this a try. And it was not perfect from the beginning. It's still not perfect, even though I do have 2 established covies at this point. And so that's kind of how I got into it, just wanting a meat source, and one that I could bring myself to use for meat when the time was right or necessary. And so that's how I got into them. I wouldn't say they're much different from chickens. Of course, they're smaller, but chickens need food, water, shelter, dry bedding. They need care. I will say I don't deal with any diseases, or I have not dealt with any diseases in quail. However, the integration of quail is much harder than the integration of chickens. I've integrated, a flock of chickens and a flock of quail, but I would say they're about the same, except chickens take up a little more space. They need to have space to come out of the coop, where quail, you're going to keep them in whatever enclosure you're using. So I would say it's about the same. It's just the reason is different for each one, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And the reality of it, for those of us who eat meat, whether you're harvesting that meat and consuming it, or you're just eating it and buying from the grocer, somebody else is dispatching that animal. And it's the process, and knowing where the way you do it or a hunter does it, okay, that is every step of the way, what has happened. You don't have to guess, well, did this go right? It is perfect the way you want it to be done.
Yes, and that's one of the things that I like about having a meat source, is that I do know what they were fed. I do know how they were treated. Absolutely agree with that.
So, growing up as a little girl, did you ever envision this type of lifestyle, having animals that you were going to butcher out, having a garden? Was this ever something that you ever dreamed of, going, well, I could probably do that someday, or this was just a dream that came true, or a reality that came true in 2020? You're like, let's ride this roller coaster and see what happens.
No, that this is not something that I ever actually saw myself doing. But I think with watching YouTube and I was seeing other people do it, and I was like, this is something that I am interested in. As it relates to like getting chickens, originally we got them as baby chicks. The larger they got, I got scared of them, and I was like, well, you can't have chickens that you are responsible to take care of and be scared of them. So I got used to that. With the quail, knowing that I wanted them for meat. Before I even hatched them out or even started looking for them, I found a class on dispatching a turkey. And so I took that class and I said, if I'm able to do this for, for a turkey to have meat to eat, then I should be able to do it for a quail. And my first time doing the turkey, I mean, I cried. But where I went to do it at, she said it's very normal. If you don't have a feeling, then maybe, you want to think about that. And so that's what I did. So I had to prepare myself because this is not a life that I saw for myself. But at this point, it's a life that I can't see myself not living.
And you bring up a point. You had an emotion there. People who are doing this for a living, dispatching animals on their farm or hunting, they are very grateful for the animal that gave them the opportunity to harvest in order to provide food for their family. So that is a very good feeling to have.
Yes, I agree.
So, what is one of the most unexpected joys that you have had, having this homestead, having this garden, raising these animals, etc.? What is something that you just did not expect would bring you so much joy?
I want to say probably just gardening. So it's literally this tiny seed that you start. And I absolutely love starting seeds because it just makes me feel like it's amazing to me. It's a tiny seed that's going to give me so much food. In our world, we're normally going for the big things. But it's this small seed and I'm going to get like 100% return from it because I'm going to get to eat the food. I'm going to be able to save those seeds. That's what I think is my biggest joy, starting seeds and getting that return on that harvest. I mean, that harvest on the work that I've done.
Well, Asia, we greatly appreciate the time and opportunity you've given us and the education you've shared with us. Again, remind our listeners how they can find you on the internet and your YouTube channel.
Okay. So I'm on YouTube and it's YellowDoorUrbanHomestead. And I'm also on Instagram at YellowDoorUrbanHomestead. I post very regular on both.
Well, we thank you for that, and we will certainly continue to follow your journey on your homestead, and we thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.